First tonight, the effects of climate change are playing out in real time across Europe, with a heat wave engulfing the continent and threatening to break temperature records in a number of countries. France is facing what's been described as a heat apocalypse. Emergency services across southern Europe are battling forest blazes that have ravaged thousands of hectares of land and killed several people. Meanwhile, the United Kingdom is bracing for record high temperatures, perhaps peaking at 41 degrees centigrade tomorrow. Our chief correspondent, John Cookson, has this report.
Too close for comfort. Wildfires raged close to a stationary train in northwest Spain before, to passengers' relief, it moves on safely. The summer heat wave that's triggered devastating forest fires across southwest Europe shows no signs of abating today. In Spain, 20 wildfires are raging out of control from the south to Galicia in the far northwest, where blazes have destroyed around 4,500 hectares of land. Fire season has hit parts of Europe earlier than usual this year, after an unusually dry, hot spring that left the soil parched. Scientists blame climate change and predict more frequent and intense episodes of extreme weather. And perhaps more scenes like these, with a Spanish hydroplane approaching a beach packed with tourists in the southern town of Fuengirola. It dips its bow into the sea to collect water to dump on fires in the hills. People in the Spanish capital Madrid were fending off the heat as forecasters warned of temperatures above 40 degrees centigrade.
I'm from Texas, so I'm used to the heat, but this is unreal, just walking in the shade a lot, trying not to get in the sun. Got this bottle of water and it was completely solid ice about 5 minutes ago. Just trying to stay hydrated, and yeah, it's really hot.
In France, firefighters are battling wildfires as the country wilts under unusually extreme heat waves. 2 huge blazes, which have consumed pine forests for 6 days in the southwest, have forced the evacuation of more than 16,000 people. Meanwhile, the 12th Petersburg Climate Change Conference is underway in Berlin, highlighting the importance of staying focused on climate issues which have left Europe tinderbox dry.
Excellencies, 8 months ago we left COP26 with 1.5 degrees on life support. Since then, its pulse has weakened further. Greenhouse gas concentration, sea level rise and ocean heat have broken new records. Half of humanity is in the danger zone from floods, droughts, extreme storms and wildfires. No nation is immune. Yet we continue to feed our fossil fuel addiction. What troubles me most is that in facing this global crisis, we are failing to work together as a multilateral community.
At the same conference, the German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, without offering alternatives to his country's high consumption of fossil fuels, said no one can be satisfied with the fact that here in Germany, the share of coal-fired power generation is rising again. And while they talk about climate change, there's no significant slowdown in global warming, and the fires rage on in what looks set to be the start of a long, hot summer. John Cookson, Arise News.
And John Cookson joins me now from a sweltering London. Good to see you, John. Tell us more about the so-called apocalypse of heat. How's it looking in London today?
Hey, Charles. Good to see you. Well, it's been a hot and sticky day today, I must say, and all the predictions about a high temperature have come true. Can I tell you that the record high for today, and not the highest ever in recorded history, was at Cambridge, and that was 38 degrees centigrade, slightly less than 2019, where again a high temperature was recorded at Cambridge at 38.7. And forecasters saying, as you said in the intro, they're looking towards over 40 degrees tomorrow. So a significant weather here in the UK and of course across Europe. In the UK, it's caused the closure of some schools. Some kids finished early. Rail lines have buckled at Vauxhall in South London. Luton Airport is still closed tonight, Charles, after the runway melted. As there was also a melting of the runway at RAF Brize Norton in Oxfordshire, causing that base to close down temporarily. You know, there have been odd incidents all day. Pigs at a farm exhibiting at the Royal Welsh Show have been covered in suntan cream today to protect them from the sun. Such was the sensitivity of their skin. But all in all, people have either stayed at home or gone off to the seaside and enjoyed the sunshine. Looking forward to tomorrow with possibly record high temperatures here in the UK.
And John, I heard a meteorologist in the UK saying that these temperatures are simply unattainable in Britain without climate change. Is that the consensus within the scientific community?
Certainly in the scientific community, yes, Charles. Although I have to say I was looking at the temperatures for summer in 1911, okay, more than 100 years ago. And in July, in 1911, we had a temperature of 37.5 degrees centigrade. So perhaps this is not a new thing. We do know that the Earth has warmed up by 1.1 degrees centigrade since industrial times, which are judged to start at in the 18th century. But without any effective method of reducing global warming, these events are just going to continue long into the future. There is a problem, of course, because there is an issue because of the war between Russia and Ukraine. Europe highly dependent on Russian oil and gas. They don't have the time to look for other sources of fuel. And indeed, Germany, as I said in my report there, is still looking at coal-fired generation of electricity, which in the circumstances that we're at the moment is quite unbelievable in many ways. I mean, future generations will surely look back and say, why the heck didn't they do something sooner? So meantime, Europe burns, France, Spain, Greece, Portugal, less so today. But those wildfires are still raging, in some cases out of control tonight in parts of Europe. Charles.
Well, I was going to just get you to talk a little bit more about those wildfires, John, because I understand they're a big worry for the French authorities right now along the Atlantic coast. The situation said to be deteriorating. What's the official update?
In Aquitaine yesterday, 42 degrees centigrade was recorded, and tonight 15 départements in France are on high alert. The ground, as I said in my report, is absolutely tinder dry. It was a very dry spring in Europe, and this is part of the problem because, of course, as we know, Charles, they have heat waves in France and Spain and Mediterranean every year, but this year it's different because the ground is so dry, and the ground is so dry, according to scientists, because of long-term climate change. So this is something that we are seeing today, and we're going to see in decades from now, I'm sure, unless something seriously is done to reduce the effects of global warming on the Earth generally. And I must say, although we're talking about Europe tonight, I watch events in the Middle East very closely, and countries like Iraq are in absolutely dire straits at the moment, and it's not generally reported in the Western media. But rivers are drying up, marshlands are drying out, and parts of Iraq are turning into a dust bowl. And this is surely an insight into the future, possibly for parts of Europe, if something isn't done. Charles.
John, thanks very much indeed. John Cookson, Arise Chief Correspondent, talking to me there from London.